8:41 back on the Big Boy Radio Show. You're listening to Florida Sports Talk powered by NBC Sports. You can listen live online all the time. FloridaSportsTalk.fm. Adam Reardon and Chris Doering with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every Thursday, we talk Miami Hurricane football with our good friend DMoney of CanesInSight.com. And for the first time in 2013, we are talking to you about a game that Miami didn't find a way to win as they fall to Florida State up in Tallahassee this past weekend. Danny, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Doing phenomenal. How you guys?
Doing quite well. Now, obviously, let's look back 1 week first before we look ahead to the big game inside the Coastal with Virginia Tech. But the Florida State game, for Miami fans, reasons to be excited. You were in it in the first half, had an opportunity there coming into the second half. You were going to get the ball first. Everything after that was sort of downhill at that point. But if you're a Miami fan, you look at it and say, you know what, we competed well in the first half. It's a couple of touchdown passes, felt good there, and we showed that, for a period of time, we can compete with Florida State, who's, to me, arguably one of the best teams in the country. Just unfortunately for Miami, their depth and lack of real quality depth probably caught up with them in the second half of that football game.
Yeah, the second half was really brutal if you're a Canes fan. Obviously, there was a loss. You also had your best player in some time, Duke Johnson, going down with an ankle injury, which is really heartbreaking. He was playing such a good game. And if you happened to lay a wager on the game, Miami didn't cover. So that hurt a lot of people. I won't say any names. But, it was a tough second half. And like you said, FSU had superior depth. That really was one of the factors in this game. You saw a lot of players from Miami that, if Miami was operating at their peak, probably wouldn't be playing for the University of Miami, struggled to make some plays. Guys like Tyrone Cornelius, A.J. Highsmith, guys who've had solid enough seasons but really struggled with that level of competition. And FSU is just a better, deeper, more advanced team at this point in time. It was somewhat similar to the 1999 Miami FSU game. The spread in this game was wider, but you saw some flashes of competition early on in the first half, and then you saw the better team pull away in the second half.
What are your thoughts on Stephen Morris? I mean, this is a guy that in the preseason was highly heralded for the job he did at the Manning camp. He's incredibly streaky, man. But when this guy gets it going, he looks as good as anybody in the country. But when things aren't going his way, he really struggles as well. What can he do as the season winds down here? Still got a lot of the goals on the table. What can he do to become more consistent and really be the force that they need him to be if they're going to be successful in getting back and having another shot to play play Florida State in the ACC championship game?
Well, he's the man on the spot right now. With Duke going down, there's going to be much more of a burden on Stephen Morris. And like you said, I mean, he's just been streaky. You saw him in the first half. He looked actually better than Jameis Winston and made some unbelievable throws. 2 throws to Allen Hurns that really you couldn't throw any better with more accuracy, with more velocity. And then the second half really struggled. Underthrew a pass to Stacey Coley, was late. That was a real turning point in the game. And just kind of fell into the mode that we've seen, which is some unbelievable throws, some unbelievable quarters, some unbelievable halves, but not a complete game. You saw it against Florida. You saw it against Florida State. You saw it against Virginia Tech last year. It's just become a theme to the point where you say, that's who he is, or at least that's who he's been to this point in his career. It's real disappointing because in the spring, he was so razor sharp in everything he was doing in terms of accuracy, consistency, fundamentals, and he carried that through the summer. In fall camp, he really wasn't as sharp as he was in spring. You saw some more turnovers, you saw some more questionable decisions, and that's carried on to the season. You wonder, is this, is the hype getting to him? Is he feeling the pressure of having to live up to those expectations? Is it just the complications from his ankle injury affecting his footwork, affecting his confidence? Or is it just a combination of all of those things? And that's probably the answer. But with Duke going down and with this slate of games coming up, and like you said, all of the goals still ahead of this Miami team, he can really cement his legacy with a strong finish to the season.
Danny Money, CanesInsight.com, our guest here on the Big Boy Radio Show, talking Miami Hurricane football. Now, the game this weekend against Virginia Tech, you could make the argument, and I think a lot of people have this, that this game is actually more important to the season than the Florida State game was last week. Obviously, the winner here has the absolute inside track to the Coastal Division title and a trip to the ACC title game. Virginia Tech has been to that game before. Miami has yet to go there. In your mind, is this the most important game of the season for Miami, or was that the game against Florida or maybe even Florida State?
No question. The game against Florida was extremely significant. Really validated a lot of what Coach Colt has been teaching in terms of toughness, in terms of dedication to the process. So that's probably the most important game to this point. But if Miami finishes second or third in the Coastal, even with all the improvements they've made, it'll still seem like the whole story. So this is the most important game. Miami wins this game. They really are looking good at the Coastal. They have an easier slate of games coming up. Obviously, they can lose those games, but very winnable games for the next three. And then they're looking at a rematch with FSU in Charlotte in the ACC championship game. And at that point, anything can happen. So this really is the game, probably the most important game of Stephen Morris's career, and a real test for the defense, which has struggled a bit in the past few weeks.
I think Al Golden's done a really nice job of embracing the positive history of the University of Miami football program, while at the same time trying to do things a little bit differently and maybe clean up some of the things that haven't been as well received nationally by the fans and the media. I wanted to know how, if at all, any of the coaches or the feeling amongst the program in general is about Dan Sileo and his comments. I know that he doesn't represent the current guys on the team, but as a former player, you do have some connection, and I think that there's been a lot of obviously negative backlash across the country, and he's been fired down there. But being in that area, what are your thoughts about his Twitter comments and kind of the hoopla that's been raised after that?
Well, the university played a part in reporting that and getting him fired. So that speaks to what the university felt about those comments, and it was done almost immediately. So obviously that didn't play well at the university. The Hurricane fan base really has no respect for Dan Sileo. It's become clear over the years that he only cares about Dan Sileo and getting his name out there. So, really, as far as the Hurricane fans and the Hurricane program go, they'd like to distance themselves from Dan Sileo as much as possible. Just your typical shock jock and, just trying to draw attention to himself. It really has nothing to do with the University of Miami other than the fact that that's where he graduated.
Danny Money, CanesInSight.com, our guest here on the Big Boy Radio Show. Danny, now looking forward to this football, through the rest of the football season. Obviously, the loss of Duke Johnson is going to hurt, but Dallas Crawford has stepped up there before against North Carolina. We expect him. How about the guys behind him now? Who are the guys that move forward? Is that Eduardo Clement moves into the backup role, or does Gus Edwards get more carries throughout the rest of this season?
I think it's going to be a sampler player early on, and then whoever seizes the job will be that guy to finish the season. Eduardo Clement's very good in pass protection, a good short yardage runner, even though he's not the biggest guy, a very decisive runner. He's going to get what's there. He doesn't have the best vision. He's not the most overly elusive guy, but he will get what's there available to him. So you know what you're going to get from Eduardo Clements, obviously also a senior. Gus Edwards, the freshman, much more talented back, a bigger back, close to 230 pounds, just a very tall, lean, powerful back, built not unlike James Wilder, and it's somewhat of an upright runner. The real question with Gus Edwards is, can he generate all the power that's in his body and translate that to his running style? He runs so upright that he doesn't finish runs like you'd expect someone of his power to do, and that hurts him in short yardage. Is that something that can be corrected quickly? That's tough to change someone's running style that quickly. But he'll need to adjust if he's going to earn these snaps. He certainly has the talent. He has speed. He has athletic ability. He has the size, and he's made plays against the lesser teams on Miami's schedule. So he's really the guy to watch, Gus Edwards.
Final question real quick for you. As much as it's important to replace Duke Johnson, I think one of the things that all fans want to know about is how's the mental psyche for Florida or for Miami going to be. They were kind of listless in the two games prior to the Florida State game, able to pull those out, even though they didn't play their best. And we've seen Miami in the past let one loss turn into another. How has Al Golden addressed that this week? And do you think there'll be the emotion there that they need to have to win this football game?
I think so. There's a couple factors in play. It's a night game, which is always good, a night home game. So it should be a little more raucous than your typical atmosphere at Sun Life Stadium. There's a lot of pressure on players on the offense to step up their games with Duke Johnson out. So you have, a guy like Stephen Morris knows he needs to perform. The receivers know they're going to be counted on. And then the running backs sitting behind Duke know that they need to perform and prove that they belong at the University of Miami. Also, the offensive line knows it has to block even that much better for its back. So I expect the offense collectively to step up with Duke Johnson out. And the defense played a tremendous game last year against Virginia Tech. Similar environment, at home, at night. Really played with a lot of intensity, a lot of aggression, a lot of speed. So you hope to see them replicate that performance against the Virginia Tech offense, which certainly is not a juggernaut like Florida State.
DMoney, CanesInsight.com, the best in the business, talking Miami Hurricane football. He joins us each and every Thursday here on the show. Danny, as always, appreciate your time, my friend. Enjoy the game Saturday night. Let's hope we're talking about an ACC Coastal win for the University of Miami.
Take care, guys.
Appreciate it. Danny Money, CanesInsight.com. Big game for them this weekend against Virginia Tech. Coming up on the other side of the break, we'll wrap up this edition of the Big Boy Radio Show. Stay tuned. You're listening to Florida Sports Talk, powered by NBC Sports.